This is the Balanced Growth Show with Dr. Travis Perry, helping successful business professionals like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Growth Show. I am your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today, I am privileged to have in studio with us Mr. Alex Tam. Alex is an accomplished entrepreneur, real estate investor, husband, father, and doctor of chiropractic with over 15 years of experience. After building a successful career as a chiropractor and clinical director at an integrative medicine clinic, he authored a book titled The Truth About Chronic Pain and helped many individuals who had not found relief through mainstream medicine. Despite his passion for his work, he felt trapped by his demanding schedule of over 60 hours a week, which took him away from his family, which we will talk about more. In search of time and freedom, Alex turned to real estate investing and learned the art of working efficiently through delegation. He now spends his time helping other entrepreneurs, especially doctors and small business owners, to grow their businesses and make wise investments that will build generational wealth for their families. Alex, that's a great intro. Appreciate you being on the show, my friend.
Hey, Travis, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I always like to let you tell the story. I mean, your bio does a pretty good job, but how did you get here? How did you get into chiropractic? What made you want to go that direction? And what led you to finally making that switch? Was it really the overschedule? Was the lack of balance? Why don't you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I started off being a chiropractor because another chiropractor and a natural doctor helped my mom. And this was back in 2004. So immediately after that, I realized there were so many people who needed help through what that doctor did. And I went and enrolled in chiropractic school, completed a 4-year program in 3 years, and opened our office May 27th of 2009. And it's been running strong today. Went from just a chiropractic office to now an integrative medical office, because now we're able to have IV therapy, regenerative therapy, from cold laser to spinal decompression. And then in 2016, that's when social media really got big. And editing videos and graphics, even though I knew how through Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, and Power Director, all of that, it took a lot of time, right? On the weekends, it was 4 or 5 hours just editing graphics and videos. So eventually, I found out that there's something called a virtual assistant. From having one virtual assistant to growing to now 11 full-time virtual assistants that work for us for multiple streams of companies, from the medical practice to the real estate investment and our virtual assistant agency. How we got into real estate investment was I went to a business conference in 2018, learned about passive income for real estate, multifamily apartments, and started doing that. And then in 2021, started actively being one of the operators in multifamily real estate and started getting other investors involved. And one of the reasons why we went to the active side was because we had enough doctors and family members ask us about real estate investing. And we didn't felt like we knew how to tell them, except, hey, read this document, right? So we finally went actively learning about it, took a 2-year course on it to be able to join masterminds and now help other doctors mainly and other business owners, help them invest in real estate as well. So it's been great.
It's a really fun story, and I'm not mean to be offending anyone. And I know when people say no offense, they tend to offend. So really, I'm not trying to. But as a financial advisor, I had an associate who would say, I'm like, hey, I like to work with doctors. And he's like, yeah, me too. The MD stands for money dumb. I'm like, what? He's like, well, they do this great job, like running their practice, but really they struggle a lot of times with knowing where to put their money, where to invest in their business.
Right.
And so again, I'm not trying to put any doctor or medical practitioner down, but I know that there is a need here, and you're filling that need because you're starting to help them. You're trying to help other doctors, and it's just kind of led from one thing to another as you're helping. So I love that spirit of you coming out and really trying to fill a need, figuring it out, being the real estate investor guy, helping them with, their assistant needs, which this is a huge need today. It's a huge need to find good help.
Absolutely.
I know. And my clients tell me the same thing. You can't delegate to no one. Like you've got to be able to have a team you trust, right?
Right. 100%.
So as you're growing your businesses, why is it important for you to have great balance?
Well, the reason, if you think back to why we have a business to begin with, right? To serve a need. But ultimately, if you have a family, well, your family is a need as well. And if you don't have that balance between work and play or work and family, well, soon you're going to lose that balance and become a workaholic all the time. And then your family can't reach out to you, so that can be a problem in the long run, especially when you're newly married or, trying to always work on a relationship. And especially when you have young kids as well, that can be a problem.
Yeah, 100% agreed with that. Couldn't say it even better. I find that most dadpreneurs, fathers who are entrepreneurs, they struggle. Like there's always the struggle. I'm the guy that wrote Achieving Balance. I'm Balance Man. And it's a daily struggle to make sure that it's there. I have systems and steps in place for me as checks, but it's a constant balance need. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you putting it into the perspective of, you're helping with a business serve a need, but your family is a need too. Like you're there to help provide and show them what life can be like. So good for you. As an entrepreneur, what have you done to scale your businesses? I mean, you told me kind of where you went from chiropractor, real estate investor, helping people delegate now with your virtual assistant group there. But what has been some of the keys to growing these businesses?
I think the key thing is really being able to let go, training the right people, making sure the right people are in the right place, and that you have great systems. We now in our medical practice have, our medical director, myself, another doctor, 2 nurse practitioners, and a full staff to be able to support everybody as well. And on the real estate side is making sure that we are working with the right operators. See, the right operators can make and break a deal. They can turn a really good deal into really terrible if you're not a good operator. A really good operator can take a bad deal that is falling apart and make it phenomenal, right? So being able to build relationships with people, I believe in every business that we do now, it's all about relationships with the patients, relationship with investors, and then relationships with business owners. And how we're able to scale our virtual assistant agency to just about 50 virtual assistants now is not only making sure the clients are taken care of, but then also the virtual assistants are taken care of. And we're consistently hiring people within the agency to work inside the agency to be able to support our growth as well. That right seats, making sure that everyone has their will and skill to do it. And then going over everybody, we call it our PPFs, our personal, professional, and financial goals, and helping each person make those goals. As they help us, we help them. And that's what's allow us to be able to scale.
So with virtual assistants, you don't just give them a job and say, see you later.
Hey, you can't. You can't. That's what people think, right? People sometimes think that when they hire a virtual assistant that they should know everything.
Yeah.
Where in reality, it's not so much. I said, it's just like another employee that you have. You got to think of them like that. Does your staff understand your mission, vision, and core values? If they don't understand what your mission, vision, and core values are, and you're not integrating them within the business, how are they supposed to excel? How are they supposed to know what you need? How are they supposed to know what your social media posts should look like, right? It's impossible.
Yeah, I actually have 6 or 7, depending on how you quantify a virtual assistant. Maybe they're a contractor who does, some part-time work, but I have 6 or 7 at a given time working, podcasting, editing social media, editing videos, editing my book formatting my book, editing any sort of logo or visuals, like that's 6 right there. Oh, 7, doing my website. Like they're not in this physical office. My sales team
Right.
is in this physical office. And, I do that exact thing where I sit down with them monthly and say, what are your personal goals? What are your goals here for the business? How are you integrating? And how can I help you? And I think that's an incredible key. But I, Alex, have never thought about doing that for my virtual assistants or my contractors as much. Only really the ones that are in these, in this suite of offices that I have. And, that's a great point. That's a really great point. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions about using a VA. And I've actually had a business partner who he and I would go back and forth, and, I'd help business owners delegate and he'd sign them up with a VA. So this is kind of really cool that you're involved in this space. Let's talk about you personally though. What is your biggest struggle with as you're scaling and doing your consulting, your real estate and your VA company, as you're scaling these businesses? What is one of your biggest issues with trying to keep that balance without losing that balance as you're growing?
I say that the best thing that I need to do, the most important thing, is for me to schedule my time. On certain days, I have schedule blocks mainly in the morning. Then I'm done for the day, right? So that I can spend that time with my family and be with them. Scheduling vacations in, scheduling playtimes in. It's like, when is work and when is fun, right? And leave an opening for variables where you can call an audible. And that's really, really important, because you never know when your little one might say, hey, let's go play in the snow. And be like, all right, let's do it. Let's go snowboarding, right? Being a little bit spontaneous about these things. Or maybe we'll go for a nice hike and go see some wild horses, right, out where we're at. So it's being able to make sure you can say no to some people, learn how to say no. You don't have to say yes to everything. And that block scheduling is a key thing.
It is definitely key. I talk about in my book, Achieving Balance, by even having a scheduled days. Like Monday for me, there's no appointments. It's just my team. And now I'm going to include my virtual team, which I have done with a couple of the virtual assistants, but I haven't done the goal setting things or anything. So I'm going to integrate that on Mondays. And it is my organization day. Tuesday, I do podcasting. I do training. Wednesday, I work on actual coaching. Thursday, I do some more podcasting. Friday, I'm out unless there may be a half day or so that I come in to do some follow-ups or even some, working on my material, my content once in a while. But most of the time, Fridays, that's when I'm boarding. That's when I'm hiking. That's when I'm mountain biking, taking the weekends off and such. So I love this concept, and I apply it even to the days. So it's great to hear that it's working for you, because some people are like, oh, I tried blocking, it doesn't work. I'm like, it does. You just have to work it. You got to make it work, but you've got to work it. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
And this actually comes back to your virtual assistant concept. Like, there's no way you can do this if you're trying to do everything for everyone and be everything to everyone for all of your clients. You've got to learn how to delegate. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now you've got the time block, you have the scheduling out. You got a great big smile on your face because like you're able to go on vacation and things are going to be taken care of, right?
Right.
So let's talk about delegation. What's the best way to delegate? This always comes up almost every podcast I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's the D word. So what are 1, 2, 3 things that you would suggest? Here's the right way to delegate.
Well, delegation comes down to, I first write down, what are some things that I have to do, right? Most people will write down things that they want to delegate. I write down things that I need to do. So for example, for right now, I do all the discovery calls that people are reaching out to me for virtual assistants. And we bring a virtual assistant onto that call sometimes, but I do a discovery call, calls with investors. I do that, right? In terms of being in the medical practice, I do filming of videos. I'm taking care of patients on some patients. So I do certain things on certain days. And then everything else, I look at who can help me do that so I can focus on doing these things, right? Who can help me with all the other stuff? And does the person have the will and the skill to do it? Are they the right person for that job, right? So then I start looking at, okay, how do we delegate it? I have my team leader, one of my team leaders who's also a virtual assistant. I have in the office, my office manager who can work on those things. Then I'll say, who's going to be the best for that? I'll ask my team leader, who's going to be the best for this, right? This is what I need done. And then boom, we get the logins done. We show them how to do it, maybe shoot a video on how it's done. And then it's out there, right? So that's how I usually delegate. I mean, delegation by itself is an art. I think for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, the first thing you have to do is get it inside your head that you can delegate. Let's get through that part first. Like, can you delegate? If you can't even get past your own mind, forget about it, right? Don't even write things down until you realize that you can do it. And sometimes people are like, oh no, I got to do everything. I said, well, yes, you can do everything, but what if you didn't have to? What would you do with that time? And they will say, well, I'll go on a hike. I'll go on a date with my wife. I'll do this. I'll do that. And I say, well, how do those things make you feel? Wow, that'll be amazing. You tap into their emotions on why they should get that done. And hopefully the emotions are strong enough to be able to hire someone to do it, and go from there. That's how I would look at it.
It comes back to priorities and time management. It seems like full circle here,
right?
Which is all about increasing your balance. You want better balance, delegate. But what I love about what you're offering though is like you have a system, you have a team of VAs that can help. You don't have to go searching for them yourself. You don't have to do the training. It sounds like you do a lot of that. Part of that, talking to your team leaders. Mm-hmm. I look at the team and I actually call it offense and defense, and I have sales and marketing as my offense, and I have operations and fulfillment. They're my defense, and I call them each the captain. So whether you call them team leaders, team captains, whatever, I love the team analogy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then I will make sure those people are really well trained so they can train the others. The last thing I want, Alex, I don't want to continually hire people and having to train them myself. Like I want someone else to be the one to train them. So I'm with you. Find the right people. That's the kind of the good to great concept. And I use Loom. I use video all the time to train. Yeah. That way, they can start. And for example, I've got an operations assistant position open. My operations assistant left. We thought we had someone. He was getting trained and he's like, no, this isn't for me. I'm like, great. It's good to know now. See you later. Let's find someone else. I have 25 videos that we've already shot. So as soon as I do hire someone, they'll sit down and that's it. They'll go through the training. They'll have the videos ready to go. And then it's a resource, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of them coming back, hey, Alex, how do I do this? Hey, all of a sudden you lost the delegation tool. Now they're bugging you all the time. At the same time, I have a lot of people on this show that say, Travis, it's good to delegate and let go, but you need to constantly train. So what do you do to constantly train so it's not a hassle? It's not like, oh, well, you keep asking me. Here's the resource. What do you do with your VAs that you're, constantly training them?
We have on a regular basis team meetings where we're looking at what each person is doing. How can we be more effective? Issues that might come up, right? And then with every issue that come up, it's like, let's try to figure out how we can do it better and more effectively. On our medical practice side, we function very similarly, where we have a list of things that we need to operate on, and the operations can get better. So there is a issues list that we can put in. Anyone who puts in an issue, they bring it up on the next meeting, but they put their name and initial next to it. But when they put an issue down, the goal is that they better come up with a solution. You come up with a solution, and then as a team, we talk about it and then put it as a standard operating procedure, or we find out that maybe there's something else that we're missing. right? And then we train and role play on it as a team to make sure that those things are ran more effectively.
Yeah, beautiful. So you've got a system in place for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I find a lot of struggles with business owners is they want to delegate. So maybe they get past that fear of delegation. They are able to delegate, get over their ego and issues, and they get someone in that seat, but then there's not continual training. There's not a system for that. And that's where I find the issue comes down to, well, I can't trust that person. I've got to fire him, find someone else. It costs a whole lot less to train that person or to find a different seat on the bus, as Good to Great talks about, like putting them in the right spot so that they can be, still helping the team. I've moved team members around when it wasn't the right fit. I'm like, I mean, your personality, as you've tried this out for the first 90 days, it's not really working. Let's move you from sales over to operations or vice versa. And it has worked.
Right.
I love this. And this is such great advice. What other, issues do you see? You deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, medical professionals. What other issues do you see as they're struggling to have balanced growth? They're building their businesses, but they're not keeping their balance. What other issues do you see that way?
One of the things that I see is as they try to balance everything is that they don't really understand how to be like, just for virtual assistants. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're very loose and don't have the right policies in place. For example, I have heard some virtual assistants where, clients come to me and they'll say, virtual assistants don't work. And I said, really? Tell me what didn't work. Well, I can't reach them. I can't do this. And then when I try to contact them, they're not there, right? They're flaky. I said, really? I said, let me ask you this. Did you ever set expectations for your virtual assistant to be there during business hours where you can call them, ring them at any time, as long as they're not on lunch, and that they pick up? Well, I never thought of that. I said, so if you didn't set the expectation, whether it's with an in-office employee or a virtual assistant, doesn't matter who, how would they know that they are supposed to do that, right? How would they know that they're doing a good job or not? And I think that that's one of the biggest problems that I see in business is when you have staff and you don't set expectations, you don't have key performance indicators on what they should be doing, then all kind of falls apart. Then the person just feels like they can do, well, whatever. No one's holding me accountable. Why should I be disciplined? Right. So that's one of the biggest things I see.
Yeah. And doing that virtually, having those virtual KPIs, whether they're in the office or not, that they need to be held accountable for what they're doing or not. And I've struggled with this because I've had employees where we actually started here in the office, but then they went virtual. There was an expectation set, and because they weren't able to reach the expectation, we needed to let them go.
Right.
Some people, they just do better in an office environment, period.
Right.
And so I've seen it work both ways, but I was glad we set the expectation. I was glad that here's the boundaries. And after a period of time when that didn't work out, it was like, well, we need to make a change. And it's too bad because I really like the guy. But that said, that's reality. That's a job. Setting those expectations, putting those in plain English in writing. But as you're doing your follow-ups with team meetings. Now, do you do one-on-ones to do those PPFs as well? Do you spend time with them individually? If so, how often do you do the PPFs?
Usually we try to do it once a quarter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once a quarter. We do it as a team. At the year end, we have a team meeting on what the next year looks like. And then at least once a quarter, I'll talk to them and say, hey, how are you doing about that? How are you doing on this? How are you doing on that?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, we do the same. I love it. Such good advice. I love hearing what's working well. And I'm with you. Like, I know this is an issue for a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners out there who are like, yeah, virtual assistants don't work, or it's a constant battle now of like, do you do hybrid? Do you keep your team all in an office? Do you let them all go virtual? And, that's not here nor there for this conversation.
Right.
I think it's an important conversation to really focus on, like, it's possible, it can be done.
Yes.
And you're proof of that. if advisors, business owners, entrepreneurs, medical professionals want to reach out to you, Alex, what's the best way to get a hold of you to help them with their delegation issues?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. You just look for Alex Tam. My cell phone number is 775-717-0090. Shoot me a text anytime, and then I'll blast you back a Calendly link, and we can schedule a discovery call.
Perfect. Nice to have you on the show. Thank you for your time. And, you guys, if you've loved this, listening to Alex and I banter back and forth about delegation and VAs and how to build out your team virtually with allowing you to better balance, please like, share, subscribe to this podcast. We as I'm talking, definitely not when this is going to be aired, but as I'm talking, we've done 100 episodes, over 10,000 downloads for a brand new podcast. Not being, an A-list celebrity, this has been an awesome ride, and it's been really fun milestones we've been able to reach. So keep the support. Let us know how we're doing. And thanks again, Dr. Alex, for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Travis.